Good afternoon. I'd like to
Recording in progress.
Can you hear me, Liz?
Yeah, you can start. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Dempsey, you can
I'd like
start.
Okay. Sorry, we're getting started. I'd like to welcome everyone to the East Ascension Drainage Meeting, August the 9th, 2021. I'd like to go ahead and call the roll. Miss Liz, can you call the roll for me?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Commissioner
Thank you,
Robert.
Joe.
Commissioner Robert.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Commissioner Turner. Commissioner Orgeron.
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Melanson. Commissioner Lawler.
Present.
Commissioner Cazzo.
Here.
Commissioner Waggus back.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Oh, you are, okay. Commissioner Cagnolati.
Here.
Commissioner Mason.
Hey, buddy.
And Chairman Lambert.
Yeah.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 6. We have a quorum.
Mr. Orgeron, would you please lead us with the invocation followed by the pledge, please?
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Public before we go forward, I'd like for you to keep in special intentions in your prayers this evening for the Bart Bro family and my sister-in-law, Brittany Salpetri, who is undergoing chemotherapy for breast cancer. I know we all have difficulties in life, but these two families desperately need our prayers at this moment, as well as all others who are suffering with COVID or any other deadly disease. Lord, as we come before you tonight, we come before you humbly, admitting to mistakes that have been made in the past, admitting that we have not always followed your guidance and your laws, but understand, Lord, that each and every member of parish government truly believe that they're doing the best for the people of our parish. And Lord, as you pass your blessings down upon us, please forgive us of our wrongdoings. Please forgive us all of our actions, and understand that we are merely your children and are destined to make mistakes while we seek your forgiveness and your guidance, Lord. Ascension Parish is a great place to live, and I am proud to be a member of this parish. And as an adopted member of this parish, I want to thank all of you personally for bestowing your blessings upon me and my family as well. In Christ's name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And with that being said, anyone wishing to speak, call in on any agenda item, please use the number of 225-621-8636 with the participant code of 939496. All right. Miss Liz, do we need you to go ahead and read the agenda?
Yes, sir. Acceptance of minutes, approval of June 7th, 2021 meeting minutes, approval of June 17th, 2021 meeting minutes, approval of June 28th, 2021 meeting minutes. Chairman's report, drainage report. We have vegetation management report, floodplain management plan update under general business, Shadows at Manchac drainage retention pond review, Hartman Engineering, amendment number 6 to master contract for professional services for floodplain management plan with HNTB Corporation for extending the original contract term through August 7th, 2022. Amendment number 2 to master task order contract with Delcon LLC for repair and maintenance service at the Marvin Bro, Henderson Bayou, and Sorrento pumping stations to extend the contract term through August 27th, 2022, and for an additional $500,000 to be added to the original contract amount, with the total contract not to exceed $2,500,000. Amendment number 4 to master contract for professional services for the setting installation of culverts with On Grade Construction LLC to extend the contract term through October 9th, 2022, and for an additional $100,000 to be added to the original contract amount, total contract amount not to exceed $260,000. Approval of intergovernmental agreement between the Pontchartrain Levee District and the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity District Drainage Number 1 for the maintenance and operation of a flood control structure related to gapping project associated with the Law Ridge Levee Extension and as part of the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. Approval to acquire a parcel of immovable property for the East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 for the price of $137,000 for the Louisiana Highway 22 bridge construction and drainage improvements project, described as a 33.50 acre, more or less, parcel of property, section 14 of Northeast 14, section 22-9-4, lot 1, in Ascension Parish, more fully described in Exhibit A, attached hereto and made a part hereof. Amendment number 1 to United Works LLC Lighthouse labor contract to increase funding by $300,000, total contract amount not to exceed $349,500.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
You're welcome.
Do we go back in now? Do we go into our 10-minute call for the call-ins?
Chairman, is this a good opportunity to read the parish president's statement, or do you want to wait?
I was gonna go ahead and let you do that first on the public comment.
So would you like me to go ahead and do it now?
Sure.
All right, dear board members.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Thank you. Dear board members, first off, let me thank the East Ascension Drainage Commission for coming to the table and working diligently with me to negotiate the proper role and oversight the parish president should have as it relates to drainage in Ascension Parish. Much like the sewer deal, we have all come a long way working together, discussing ways to improve our drainage department and better serve the public. Much like the sewer deal, we all have a difference of opinion. However, I want to remind everyone, it was the differences in opinion converging into the final sewer deal that made it a much better approach for the citizens of Ascension Parish. As parish president, I'm asking the public to be patient as we negotiate a contract. I am confident if we stay focused on a path forward, as opposed to looking backwards, we will create a better contract that serves the public and our drainage needs. With best regards, Parish President Clint Quinmall.
Thank you so much for that, John.
Sure.
Okay, with that being said, we move on to number 4, the acceptance of minutes.
Have we waited the proper amount of time, Dempsey, for the calls to come through?
I think we have to give them 10 minutes Is that correct, Liz?
They were taking. I'm sorry. What's that?
You want to start the 10 minutes now for the call in?
10 minutes starts when the meeting starts, so we have expired the 10-minute period.
We need to post the phone number, don't we? Correct? I don't think we've said that yet.
Yeah, I gave that in the announcement.
And Channel 21 has a lower third on their broadcast, so the number has been posted.
So has the 10 minutes started or do we need to reset?
The 10 minutes starts when the meeting begins, and we have expired that 10-minute period. I don't know if Liz has any items that have been received.
I have two. I'll read them. I have two. Okay. We have a request from Mr. Philip Bellin. And I'll read his comment. He says he would like to leave formal comments for agenda item number 4 as follows. Agenda item number 4 is the June 28th, 2021 meeting minutes approval of. He says the meeting minutes need not be approved until the questions posed on that night by Councilman Melanson and further questions posed more recently by Councilman Robert are answered fully. The citizens of the parish need to understand the full involvement of Mr. Rue, what the qualifications for the next expert to be hired will be, and how this will help drainage efforts in the immediate and in the long term. At the Ascension listening tours, many residents want to know what will be done to prevent flooding from development currently in progress, whether that be neighborhoods, commercial, or schools. The administration does not have an ability to stop these developments and hopes to improve drainage concurrently. How will the meeting on June 28th and the switch in leadership ensure these drainage projects are done simultaneously with construction? What plans are there to expedite these projects? Thank you. And I have another comment from another resident, Miss Laura Bellin. Comments on Drainage Board meeting agenda item 4C, where she says the minutes from the June 28th drainage meeting should not be approved until the questions posed by Councilman Melanson during the meeting and Councilman Robert since the meeting are answered. The citizens of Ascension Parish were promised answers to all of these questions at the July 12th meeting, but none were provided as there was no quorum. We are owed answers to these questions now. If these answers cannot be provided as promised, the minutes from the June 28th meeting should not be approved. The questions posed by Councilman Robert are listed below as published in the Pelican Post. Who drafted the council's proposed intergovernmental agreement? Can that individual be made available to respond to questions? Which of my colleagues is involved in these negotiations against President Quintemont? How many are participating? Is it a quorum of the membership in violation of Louisiana open meetings law? Will President Quintemont be allowed the opportunity to make the case for his proposal? Since the new agreements include different and mutually exclusive terms than those approved on June 28th, must we somehow invalidate the earlier approval? What is the time frame for considering the new proposals? Will they be presented and discussed at public meetings prior to the voting meeting? When will the current agreement, supposedly voided by a 6-4 vote on June 28th, expire? And when will these proposals be made available for public consideration? Laura Belling. And that's the two I received.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Liz. Any phone calls?
No calls.
Chair, I had a question on the president's report.
Sure, Mr. Robach.
John, are you available? Can
I
you hear me?
am.
Okay. My main question, or my initial main question is, do we know who drafted this contract that we're vetting through from the council? Because I still don't.
I do not.
Do we have any idea who did this contract?
I do not.
Okay.
Mr. Ogeron?
I would
I'm
like to
not
respond to
finished,
Mr.
sir. I'm not
Robert's
finished, sir.
accusations.
I'm not finished, Chair.
Okay.
So how many of these members have been involved with the negotiations with you or the parish president?
I think it's 4.
Okay. I'm going to ask the president publicly. I have more the opposite opinion on this as opposed to the rest of the council, especially the 4 that you say of the council that have drafted or are in the process of drafting this. I beg to be included in this. You need both ends of the spectrum of all sides. I should be included in these negotiations. And, if the council can't do it, I ask that the administration has to be involved. And that's the only questions I had on the president's report. And thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Robach, just to help you along now, there will be committee meetings set up this week, and you will be notified. With that being said, the acceptance of minutes, A, B, and C.
Excuse me, Council Chair, I thought Corey had another question because the administration does have a request. So if Corey has another question, I'd like to turn to make his.
Corey, I'm sorry I missed you.
Thanks, man. I'm going to state publicly here because Mr. Robert has been out in the public making false accusations. I have never drafted a document. I was not involved in the drafting of any documents.
Point of order.
To Mr. Rue's contract or proposed contract. If you want to continue this little childish
Point of
spat,
order,
Joel,
Chair.
we can continue this little spat anytime you want. Okay, I appreciate the fact that you want to be very careful because of all the dirt that's being put on your property. Okay, I understand that you need to be very protective of your personal business, but do not cast aspersions my way when you have no evidence that I've done any of the things that you're accusing me of. Okay, pal? You have no evidence, but you're out there telling people that I personally drafted those documents. I did not. Okay?
That's it.
But I do know for certain that your family property has received thousands of dollars worth of parish assets over the last couple of months. And we need to start digging. If you want to start an investigation, we need to investigate into that, pal. Okay? Stop pointing fingers.
With that being said, we're going to go back.
I'm not finished. I don't believe. Chair, you're gonna go ahead and let me talk now, sir. I don't believe Corey was finished. I'd like him to finish.
No, he's finished.
The item is
Dempsey, real quick.
The minutes.
But before you accept the amendments, the administration requests that you do not adopt the amendments from the special meeting that night.
June 20.
Repeat that again, Mr. Diaz.
We're requesting that you do not adopt amendments, minutes from the meeting of the special a meeting on the 28th.
On what grounds?
It's just a request, just like you didn't adopt them at the last meeting.
Are they inaccurate?
No, they're accurate.
Okay. Motion to adopt the minutes from all 3 meetings.
Second.
Objection.
And then,
I think Dempsey froze, or he's being really still.
Rose.
Can we do them all together, or do we have to do them one at a time per agenda item?
we normally do them each separate.
Yeah, I suggested we do them one at a time. We wait till Dempsey gets back in since he froze.
Yeah, I think they need to be done one at a time.
Has anybody tried to check with Dempsey to see if he's,
I just reached out to him.
okay, thank you.
John,
Yes.
is there any way we can get some of this field delivered to Corey Orgeron's house?
You have to sign an agreement, I assume, but I could talk to Ron about that.
I mean, I'll sign the agreement for Corey. That'd be great.
Be smug when the AG and the ethics board come questioning you, Phil. Be smug.
We're working on trying to call Dempsey to see if he's having some issue.
I heard from Cinnamon that he is having issues, but they're working on it.
It's okay. Oh wait, no, I thought I was on mute.
Rookie Compton, are you here?
Aaron, he's not connected.
Oh, okay.
If,
Get another show and tell while we wait.
Gentlemen, if Dempsey can't get back in and Chase is not here, I mean, I'm more than happy to just run, direct the meeting through this issue with, the technical difficulties, if you all would like to be able to proceed.
Well, Sherry, I've just been told that Chase and Joel are about to get on.
Chase is getting on?
Yes.
Oh, great. Well, then he
or
could.
his text.
Oh, great. Be more than happy to have him take it over because Dempsey's not being able to get in. He's having technical difficulties.
Can y'all hear me?
Hey, Chase. Yes, thank you.
Hey.
Thank you for joining
Hope you
us.
feel better, bud.
Yeah. Dempsey's out. I'm happy to step in the field. This is gonna be very unprofessional. I'm laying in my bed, but I'm happy to fill in and bring along the meeting, or if there's precedence for someone else besides chair or vice chair. I was watching on YouTube, so I it's been awkwardly silent for a few minutes. It looks like Chairman Lambert won't be able to get back on. Yeah, Mr. Lawler.
I was just going to bring you up to date on where we were. We were about to vote on the 3 minutes. We're going to do each one individually. I was going to make it just a little bit of a statement because I think there's some misconception about what the minutes actually mean. The minutes in a meeting are simply a recording procedure. It has nothing to do with the validity or the effectiveness of what's passed at the meeting. So by denying the minutes does not in some way or in any way invalidate what was passed at the meeting. Passing of the minutes are just a simple recording procedure. So I think there was some miscommunication there.
Okay.
That being said, I will make a motion that we pass the first set of minutes. I don't know what they are. I don't have it in front of me.
Second.
Yes. All right. So we have a motion and a second for the June 7th, 2021 meetings. Any objections? Any questions? Hearing none, that passes. Moving on to 4B, approval of the June 17th, 2021 meetings.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, any objections? Seeing none, that motion passes. Item 4C, the approval of the June 28th, 2021 agenda meetings.
Motion.
Ms. Cato, any questions, any objections? Hearing none, that motion passes. Okay, moving on to item number 5, the chairman's report and announcement. I don't believe that Chairman Lambert had anything in particular whenever him and I talked Friday, so we'll skip through item number 5. We're gonna move on to 6A, our drainage report. First, we're gonna have our new Assistant Vegetation Director, Mr. Todd Ellisor, I believe, has a little presentation for us.
I can take this up. Good. Hello, thank you all for having me tonight.
Thank you.
I'm good. Okay. Okay, my name is Todd Ellisor. For you who haven't introduced myself to, Assistant Vegetation Director. Been been on board now for about 2 months. So I'm not going to take up much of you guys' time. Just give you a small report, a brief report on where we've been over the last 2 months and where we're heading. So with our tractor cutting and our spraying tractors, we're trying to stay mostly on road now. We've been getting some calls about some of our laterals and some of our main drainage canals that we hadn't been getting to. But with the wet grounds and stuff, we tried some, and it's pretty amazing the mess we're making with the ruts and stuff. But we are working diligently 6 days a week now, working on road ditches and a plat map that I had put together. I think Martin McConnell posted weekly for social media for the general public to see. It's kind of where we've been and where we're heading each week. And here again, it's all road ditches. And with the limited number of pieces of equipment with tractors, it's more of it's a slow process, but we are making headway. And with all this COVID going around, it's affecting our service department with some of our down tractors. And there's no fault of those guys. It's just tough getting parts in and getting these pieces of equipment repaired. And so what we did, I brought most of all the tractor cutters together. Instead of having tractors cut around the parish everywhere as a shotgun approach, we basically brought everybody together, and we're working together to bring to work on one section at a time. And so in the sections we're working in, they're getting their roads taken care of, their ditches, and obviously we're not getting to some of the roads south of the parish where we hadn't gotten to yet. So we are getting some complaints and trying to address those. And I've actually made some trips and trying to address each person that calls in and letting them know that we are doing the best we can, and still staying on road only. And besides our tractor and spraying, we have 2 hand clearing crews, which mainly consist of weed eating crew and raking out ditches and spraying what they can in between hard to get places where our tractors can't get, either because of the fencing too close together and some of these new subdivisions that were built, or just overgrowth and trees that we hadn't gotten to in years. And so we sending those guys in, and one of our weed eater crews is from the Lifehouse, our Lifehouse contractors, which I'm gonna tell you what, these guys are doing a hell of a job for us. And if any of you council members or councilwomen haven't been to the Lifehouse, I would suggest that you take a field trip and do yourself a favor. It's really a heartening thing. It's a bunch of men that are trying to get their lives back together, and I think it's a win-win situation for both of us. For us by getting good labor, and for those guys giving them a second chance. And when I made a trip there, I had a lump in my throat just hearing these guys' testimonies and what they've been through in their lives. So I think it's a good thing for the Ascension Parish to show them that we're needing their help, but also we're here to help. And later on, in one of our action items, okay, yeah, I can. I'm sorry. So Ms. Liz is reminding me, the Lifehouse it's actually located in Donaldsonville at the old Juvenile Detention Center. And I think since that was whatever happened to it, they've taken it over and made it, I guess what you would call it, maybe a halfway house for men who have addictions or who have had addictions. So that's what the Lifehouse is. And so it's a pretty good little place to go visit. If anyone hadn't had the opportunity to do it, I would suggest you do. These are hardworking men. Most of them have families. Most of them have wives, children, church-going guys. They just made some wrong decisions in their life, and they're in a program that this group of investors or church people had put together that give them counseling and look for employment opportunities for these guys. And I think Ascension Parish ought to be proud of what we're doing, of giving these guys an opportunity to have a second chance. So that's a little bit on the Lifehouse. And right now we're using them for a hand crew mainly. And hopefully in the future after they finish their program, we can actually hire these guys if they're interested in working for the parish. And then we'll get them on different equipment and to where they can help flip that. And there are some open opportunities, but there are some statements, I think, in the contract that we have to wait until they go through their program in order to offer them a position. But as of right now, those guys are working tremendously, and quite frankly, that's part of why we're going to ask for this additional $300,000 to amend the original contract. And I think that's going to be on a later agenda item. But what we'd like to do is in a little bit, I'm going to touch a little more on it, but I think the original contract was $49,500. And in doing the math, it would take us about 2.5 months, 3 months before we spend that money. And with the $300,000, we would be looking at maybe getting a second crew from the Lifehouse, because the first crew is consisted of 6 men. And we're thinking with 2 crews, they are actually doing a lot of work that normally our off-road tractors will be doing or would be doing, and that we can't get into right now because of the wet grounds. So we're trying to keep our heavy equipment off of these people's, the residents' lawns. So some of these ditches are majority of the time are cut by tractors, but if we can get a second crew to do this, it'll carry us about 6 months with 2 different crews, and to get a lot of this work done that we can't do with keeping heavy equipment off the lawns. So that's a little bit about a Lifehouse. And what we've done here recently, and Martin McConnell has, and Miss Ruth have put together a program that to get information to the public where we've been and where we're heading with vegetation. I think each week they put out on the social media, and I'm just going to show you this. I'm sorry we didn't have anything. I didn't know how we was going to do this, but it's a general map, and each week I color code where we've been and where we're heading. It kind of gives not only the administration and you, the council, a look at what we're doing, but also the general public. They can actually log on and see what we're doing and know when we're coming, or at least the schedule that's highlighted for the following week. So that's one thing that we've accomplished over the last month that we've tried to take care of. Also on the social media, we have, I upload pictures weekly of kind of basically the same thing of where we're cutting, and it's all time stamped and the locations of where we're at. And remember, it's all roadside ditches. We do have a lot of people that's asking us when we're in that area to catch these side ditches, and we pretty much actually telling them no right now, because we tried a few, and we're having to go back and do some dirt work, some lawn work that these tractors just can't hold up to these tractors. And I'm gonna move on to our contract cutting. We've had, in the past, and I say in the past 2 months, we've had 3 grass cutting contracts. Unfortunately, we lost one in Kim Spray. Kim Spray was cutting all our state highways, our roadside ditches. And unfortunately, it wasn't working out for them. They wasn't making a profit. So at the beginning of this month, they approached me and told me that they were canceling that contract immediately, which kind of handcuffs us again, because now what we thought was some help with getting these state highways cut. They backed out on us, and you know, think about it this way. I mean, these are professional guys that can't make a profit on the money we're paying them. So that just goes to show you the amount of money it costs, and also the manpower it takes. And these are professionals that do this daily, and they backed out on us. We're making some adjustments, and we'll make this work. Royal Estates is a contractor that cuts our median on Highway 61 from Gonzales city limits to the Baton Rouge parish line. And also we have amended to where they could cut Highway 42 from sidewalk to sidewalk. That's a new roadway they're cutting. And that's gonna all be cut with zero turn mowers and edging and weed eating as well. And the last 2 things I have, and I'm not sure if it's good to bring this up or not, but we are in talks, and I know you guys have heard it too, and probably are in talks as well, but we are looking at sandbagging and litter control as outsourcing it through contract service. And obviously that's something that's, I think everybody's kind of looking about how to go about this and who to go to. This will be brought up at a later date of how we can go about getting our money's worth, and whether we revisit some old contracts or whether we move on to someone else that may could give us a competitive price. So that's it in a nutshell, guys. If anybody has any questions for me as far as vegetation or how we're handling or what's next on we're going to keep moving. And right now we do have guys working 6 days a week. So that's 2 days of overtime that I was able to squeeze out the administration. And I think we need that to catch up. And I don't know if we will catch up from some of these ditches have been 2 to 3 years that not have been touched, whether it's been with COVID or different scenarios of excuses. But that's neither here or there. We just need to get to them. And the road ditches are my main concern at this point. And from there, we're going to try to get to all the laterals to get the major drainage, the water flowing to where it's not a nuisance to any water or sites.
Chairman Lambert.
Mr. Robach?
Yes, sir. My video, I didn't want to interrupt, but my video stopped. I couldn't join the meeting. I was just now able to join by my telephone, and then I was able to get on by my iPad. When I went out on the meeting, I called an objection on the passing of the meeting, of the minutes. So I'd assume we did a roll call vote on those?
I just got back on, Mr. Robert. Chase, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I was watching y'all on YouTube, so I jumped on whenever I seen you take it out, Chairman Lambert. But yeah, we did the roll call on the minutes on the three different.
So we had a roll call vote.
No.
Yeah, we did. We did.
No, it was unanimous, I believe.
For
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
June 7th, June 17th, and June 28th. Those
shouldn't I be able to vote in that? Is what my question is. If we had a roll call vote.
Sure, you should have been able to vote.
Yeah. Do we have a what now? I don't know.
I was talking to Chairman Lambert.
I'm sorry,
I'd like
Mr.
to re-vote
Robert.
on the minutes.
Hey, look, Chase, I know you're feeling bad. I apologize, man, but I guess we all lost it here on this. Let Mr. Ellisar finish his report, and then I'll pick back up. Chase, if you want to rest, man, go ahead. I apologize. Just hold on, Mr. Robert. Mr. Ellisar?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm done unless there's questions.
It's a couple of questions, my friend. So you all working overtime, correct? You all working?
You talking to me, Dempsey?
Yeah.
You talking about our crews? Yes, sir. We're working Fridays and Saturdays as overtime, right? That is correct.
Okay. With that, any other commissioners have anything for Mr. Ellisar?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Chairman.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Ellisar, first of all, good job. As far as the chem spray contract, do you know what the differential was in between, what was feasible for them and not feasible for them?
Aaron, I haven't talked to the guy in depth. It was a shocker for us because when he approached me, it was just basically, we're not making money and we can't fulfill this at this price. And the contract, all I see is I think we signed for 140,000. And I don't know if it was broken up, from my understanding, into 3 segments of 3 different cuts. But I think in his first invoicing, he was very dejected as far as the money he was making. I don't know if he just didn't realize, or he did realize at that point that there was no way he could profit off of this. I don't know if I'm answering your question, Mr. Lawler.
Hey, Ty, I think Ron is on, and he's talked to the vendor, I know for a fact.
Can you guys hear me? This is Ron.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm not sure if I got my video on, but it looks like I have audio. But yeah, so Chemspray actually approached us very early on in stages with the state contract and said that they could do this work for us, felt very comfortable about doing it. So I actually gave them the contract, rode the roads with them. And what it comes to find out is equipment. So the parish has assets that we can reach out to 30 feet. And it appears to be that the equipment that Chemspray has doesn't necessarily reach the reaches. So what we were getting on the first scenario of cutting was they were cutting the slope of the ditch and part of the bottom and none of the back. And so they were struggling with it. They knew they were struggling. And as Todd said, they're a very professional company. We don't want to have anything bad about them, and we appreciate them trying to help out. But we do appreciate them coming to us and saying, guys, look, we can't honor this. We're having trouble, rather than keep going at that rate and not address the problem. So what we've done, as Todd said, was we've reconsolidated a small crew that we had allocated that was their job anyhow, and we put those guys back on it. You probably go ride 431 and you'll see that they had to go catch some of that and get it all back into compliance. So they'll be on that steady rotation. It actually will work out better for us. Think of Cornerview Road by Jackie Robinson Park. There's grass and vegetation beyond the right of way of just the road. So our internal guys can catch that while they're there. They can catch cross ditches while they're in the areas. I think that looking at contract labor, we need to look at other aspects of what we can find as low-hanging fruit and come back to you guys at a later date with some better scope proposals for contracts within vegetation. But at this time, we have to move on with what we got.
That's a good answer, Ron. So it's not as much of a cost issue. It's an equipment that they could do the quality job that we needed. So that's more than reasonable. Move on from there. Thank you.
Thank you all.
That's all the questions I had.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Here.
Okay.
You want to finish up, Todd? You good?
No, Terry has a question there, Dempsey.
I'm sorry, Terry?
And me.
Yes, please.
Please, Ms. Terry.
Hi, Ms. Delasar. Thank you so much for your report. Thank you for our call this afternoon. I have visited at the Lifehouse, and I agree with you. This is an outstanding program, and I wish every member of the council could visit that facility, and I encourage you to do so. I thank you for looking into the area also and letting me know that the Woodgate area had been addressed. I appreciate that very much. It's very meaningful to the folks who live there since they had some flooding, and I have followed up with the HOA there. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Johnny?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, Todd, good report. Appreciate that. Trying to get this stuff caught up with this COVID is a challenge in itself. But I just heard you say throughout your report that this was being posted by Martin and Ruth on the social media. Just a suggestion. I think it should be on the website, just a progress report somewhere. So, I mean, not everybody jumps on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. So I think if we put it on the website, just say vegetation upgrade or vegetation status report, and do that maybe once a month, if that often. Just a recommendation.
That's a good idea.
Okay?
That's a good idea, Mr. John. I'm not on social media myself, so it's hard for me to follow. But
please check with the IT department. Check with the IT department. They'll probably help you with that. Okay.
Very good point. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Todd. Great report, man. From what I heard, if you don't have anything else, man, appreciate you.
Okay, thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all.
With that, we're going to move on to B, the floodplain management update for Mr. John.
Chair.
Sure.
Chairman Lem.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to go back and vote on those minutes.
Forgot. What you have, Mr. Robert?
I made an objection to the minutes, and I'd like the record to show my vote in those votes for acceptance of the minutes. I had an objection to the acceptance of the minutes.
Okay, Miss Liz, are you there?
Yes,
I believe
sir.
they broke it down into 3 votes.
Can you have it? Do you have that reported that Mr. Robert voted no on the minutes?
He objected.
Okay.
I didn't have a chance to vote.
Okay.
Okay, the record.
So I believe we have to
telling her you
everybody
voted no.
vote yes or no. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but
Okay, she's
that's
got
it. We can't go back and add votes after the vote has been
Yes, sir.
tallied.
Because see, I was disconnected, and I actually
That
made an
sets a-
objection. I was not allowed to vote.
So was
That
the
sets a
Chairman,
bad precedent. But it sets a bad precedent that after a vote,
district just doesn't have a
Joel,
vote allowed,
Joel, please,
so-
I was talking.
Chairman,
Hold on. Hey, we just lost everyone again. Just hold on a minute here. Were you able to count your vote? Cast your vote?
no. And I'm the one
Ms.
that made the
Secretary, do
objection.
you have that?
I thought we were doing a roll call for his objection. I remember
And we never did
object-
one.
that's what I thought was you were asking.
That's exactly what was going on. And then Dempsey froze, and then
And
I got disconnected. And then I texted John before the vote, I guarantee you. I texted John as soon as I was disconnected. John, you have that text? Saying, and Brandon O'Day. I mean, I don't understand why we can't go back and vote, because that's what we did. I made an objection. We should have a roll call vote. Secretary has it recorded. Chairman.
If I may now,
Chairman.
it's parliamentary procedure with Robert's rules. We've taken a vote. The vote is closed. Unfortunately, it's just like if you're in the House or the Senate, if somebody walks out and they don't vote, they can't come running back in and say, oh, wait, I was in the bathroom, let's re-vote. That's
Okay.
not the way it works. You have to be on the floor to be able to vote. This is the same thing. It's unfortunate that you were disconnected. I'm sure we know that you were against it, but you weren't there. We can't set a precedent of opening up votes after they've been
We're not
voted
opening
on
votes.
and then
There was a call
closed.
for a roll call vote before the opening.
Mr. Robert, I
Yes,
was
the
out.
secretary has
You
it
was out.
recorded.
There was another chair. The vice chair took over. We're going to move on to number 6B, floodplain management.
So
Mr. John.
no, sir, because that does, no, sir, because you see, I made an objection. A roll call vote is recorded in the minutes. I asked the secretary, a roll call vote was not taken.
Mr. John, go ahead and proceed.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this joke of a meeting, Chairman, that you call this, on purpose this time.
Good evening. My name is John Monson. I'm the project manager for HNTB. We're working on the Ascension Parish floodplain management. I'm going to give you a monthly update on the progress made on the floodplain management plan. I'll give.
Recall Aaron Lawler.
Mr. John, are you there?
I'm here. We're just waiting for the presentation to be pulled
Okay.
up. All right. So you go to the next slide. All right. So I'm going to give you a progress update on the 18-month schedule and tasks 2 through 6. I'm not going to go through everything here, but we are going to discuss data collection, the design criteria, the flood hazard assessment, as well as the problem identification and the floodplain management plan itself. Data collection and acquisition, we've got a little bit of dry weather, and we made some progress on that. We have 83 identified structures, 76 infield discovered structures, for a total of 159 structures. The following streams have been completed, which is Welsh Gully, Muddy Creek, Boudreaux Bayou, Rowdy Bayou, Stevenson Bayou, Cotton Bayou, Alligator Bayou, and Marty Burak Bayou. In progress are Henderson Bayou, Norwood Lateral, and let's see what else we have. For a total of 32.31 miles of cross surveys and cross sections. Next slide. Sorry, one more. This map here shows you the locations that we have surveyed. I know it's a little grainy, but I did, hopefully you got a chance to look at the presentation. I emailed it to everyone. We're making good progress. You see on the lower portion, that is the Marvin Bro area. That one's being surveyed by Dewberry's sub-consultant. Next slide. On the design criteria methodology, we sent two draft documents for review on July 20th. One of them is a hydrologic and hydraulic modeling design criteria, and the other was a project development and prioritization design criteria. We're receiving comments back from the sub-consultants working for the parish, so we're going to start implementing those comments. Next slide. All right. On the we also wrapped up the flood hazard assessment. That has a we sent it out last week. This flood hazard assessment has 7 categories that we looked at, and they were all weighed a little differently. We looked at the 2016 flood inundation. That was about 15%. FEMA special flood hazard areas, that was another 15%. The FEMA repetitive loss sites gave another 25%. That was weighed heavily. Social vulnerability index, that was 10%. FEMA individual assistance sites were 10%. Critical building structures like hospitals, schools, and government buildings were granted 15% of the score, and distance to evacuation routes were 10% of the score. If you look at the map on the lower left, that is what the combined flood hazard map will look like. And you get the final scores, you take the weighted flood hazard score plus the infrastructure density, and that's what you want. That's what you wind up with. It's no coincidence that some of the lower lying areas and areas that have had repetitive losses are in the top third of the vulnerability index. And so if you have some time to review that, let me know if you have any questions. I'll be able to answer that. We also started identifying problems and developing risk mitigation strategies in and around the Henderson Bayou. We looked at the permitted maintenance, cleaning, dredging that the Corps has permitted. We also looked at regional solutions. As you already know, we're doing work in East Baton Rouge Parish. And so we're looking at the regional model to look at some solutions. And also in the Bayou Manchac Basin, Welsh Bayou, Cotton Bayou, Muddy Creek, we're looking at possible detention locations, crossing capacities, and channel capacity itself. All right. In the Henderson Bayou, we received a Corps of Engineers permit. Sketch right there on your lower right-hand side is what the Corps has permitted. This is Henderson Bayou. It varies from 20 to 53 feet in width. And some of the dirt material that has to be removed varies between, between 4 and 5 feet of material. We ran a very simple model, just a 1D model, to see what kind of benefit dredging that bayou would provide with the existing permit. And it only dropped the water surface elevations by about, 0.5 to 0.8 of a foot. Then we ran another section in there with a 5-foot bottom and 4-on-1 side slopes, and we found out that section actually dropped the water surface elevations by 1.4 feet. We did that just to illustrate that if you allow us to finish a model and run different sections, we can try to optimize the amount of water surface elevation drop in that channel for a particular storm. In this case, we looked at a 50-year storm, which is what we think some of the existing crossings can handle. So again, more work to be done on that and more to come once we start looking at the remaining system and all the bayous in and around the area. We also looked at some, next slide, we've identified some risk mitigation strategies. This is a regional concept, and I say concept because it's just a concept right now, but we're looking at the effects of restricting the Amite River backwater at I-10 and Airline, maybe possibly putting a control structure at Manchac to regulate the flood for backwater, looking at the effect of opening off restrictions on Bayou Manchac and seeing what that would do and how much that would improve flows out of that basin, the effects of removing all of Ascension and irrigable water on the EBR side. So let me explain what that means. Currently, you have Bayou Manchac Road that access a levee. And when you close the gates, Iberville and Ascension do become one basin, and you can isolate East Baton Rouge Parish out of there. If we do that, we're also going to look at how that would benefit the area with a pump at the location Pump Station 2, which is actually Naperville. We recently started looking at a facility called Willow Glen. It's an abandoned power plant facility that has discharge tubes and intake pipes at the river. Those pipes are permitted by the Corps, so we could take advantage of that and possibly put a pump station there and see if it would benefit Iberville and Ascension by keeping the water out of Baton Rouge from coming into the Iberville and Ascension side. So we're just started looking at that maybe in the last couple of weeks. That's one possibility. And then the other possibility is having a pump station in Ascension, which is on the lower right-hand side. And I'll discuss the next slide. Okay, so what that would look like is we're in the area of where 928 meets LA 74. I know the parish has done some work there to improve the confluence from the Bayou Manchac Swamp, the Manchac Swamp area and coming across 74. In 16 and in this year, when the water gets to about a 10, it naturally crosses 74 at that location. In order to improve that, if we were going to put a pump at the river at this location, we would have to put some new box culverts on the 74, do some channelization improvements to get the flow to New River, and then bring it over to the river. We have on the lower, very lower portion of that slide, we have a marker there with where we would propose to put a pump station. This concept is not new. It's been done in New Orleans and the city of Harahan. The Corps of Engineers built a pump to the river. It's actually located about 1.5 miles from the river, with the discharge tubes discharging at the river underground. This location is a prime location for a pump. In my opinion, we have not run the models, but the surface, the profile grade of the natural ground is such that you don't have a huge rise up until you get to maybe within 1/2 mile of the river. So if the regional model shows that after you put a pump in Iberville, you still need one in Ascension, this would be a prime location for it. We're also looking at the entire Bayou Manchac discussions, possible detention areas, all the crossings and channel capacities within that entire basin and all 3 parishes. That's another one of the regional models that we're looking at. Also, detention opportunities. Now, when you look at this slide, we have crosshatched certain areas. We just took satellite imagery and we crosshatched several areas. We don't know if that land's for sale. We don't know who owns it. We just looked at large tracts of land and we said, okay, there are some opportunities for detention in the Welsh Gully area. And we're looking at all the streams in Ascension, not just Welsh Gully. Just wanted to highlight that one as an example. Next slide. All right. We've also started looking at crossings. So as the surveys have come in this particular slide, if you look from left to right, you're at the upper stream of the basin, and the right will be the lower end of the basin, where this is Welsh Gully, where it dumps into Bayou Manchac. As natural flows go, you start out with a smaller opening, and you wind up with a much larger opening at the end. If you look at number 6, which is a private culvert, it's before a 9.6 square foot opening and after a 19.2 square foot opening. So, it's just an oddity right there. We think that this culvert probably is undersized. And then you look at number 14, you have 600 square foot opening before it. And then we have a pending one and it's pending because we haven't done the QA/QC on that particular survey, but further downstream. So it's surrounded by 2 600 square foot openings, and the opening at Broussard Road is only 320. So that, kind of raises a red flag right there. When we model those areas, those are some of the crossings that we're going to take a hard look at as possible project for replacements. Next slide. All right, that concludes my presentations. If you have any questions regarding any of it, I'll try to answer as best I can.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you. Any questions?
Yes, Chairman.
Dempsey. Corey.
Go ahead, Mr. Aaron.
Yeah, I'll try and be brief. First of all, great presentation. John, first of all, I want to tell y'all, thank y'all. Y'all helped a lot on the Manchac Acres Bridge, identifying a drainage problem that we jumped on early. And that's exactly what I was hoping to get from y'all, and y'all did that. So we're not just going to replace a bridge, we're going to replace a bridge and make it a better drainage structure. That question, I heard what you said about Henderson Bayou. I'm learning more that you have to do a complete job to really learn what's going to benefit the entire situation. My question, though, goes back to some of these, and we saw on the map these structures where they're constrictors in the flow. And you mentioned that at Broussard, where it goes from, I think, 252 to 600 back to 600 again, or somewhere in there. Is that the type of thing that we would have to wait to see the whole thing, to see the whole model, or is that a project that we should look at doing early on?
Yeah, I think so. If you look at the distance between Broussard Road and then upstream from it, John Broussard Road, and below it, Fallbacker Road, Camp Road. Obviously, Camp Road is right there by the Manchac, and that opening is 600. While the other one at John Broussard Road is also 600. It may be that those two are oversized. Okay. And you certainly wouldn't want to put anything smaller than a 600 CFS. Currently, Broussard Road is 320. So, anywhere between 320 and 600 would make sense. But what we would like to present to you all is when we run the models is just show you how much backwater you get by crossing Broussard with a 320 square foot area. And so that will help you make a determination. When you look at the entire system, you may have another area that's even worse than this, or this is just one example. And so you can use that as a prioritization tool to help you determine which projects you want to go after. But, this is just one area. And certainly, we're knocking them down as the survey data comes in. And we would hope that, we could wait till we get at least closer to the end when we have all of this data presented to you to make a decision on where are your worst problems.
Very good, John. Thank you. That's answered my question.
Any other questions for John?
Yeah, Dempsey?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks. John, excellent presentation. I especially want to comment on the Bayou Manchac diversion to the Mississippi. Paul Sawyer with Gary Graves' office pointed it out to me about I guess about 6-8 months ago. And I've been asking if we could do the canal all the way to the river. And they found, or you guys found, the Willow Glen pumps. Fantastic option and great work by Congressman Graves' office bringing this as a regional support. I understand that EBR and Iberville are firmly behind this project. Do you have any idea as to when something like that may get started? Have they given you any enlightenment on that part?
It's going to be, at least a year to 2 years. Planning this takes a lot of time and effort. One of the bigger challenges that we have, building a pump station is not that difficult, but getting the water to the pump station, that is the trickiest part. Making sure that you have enough real estate to actually build a channel wide enough to take that water to the pump station, while at the whole time making sure that you're not ruining any, eco-sensitive areas. We've identified several mitigation banks inside of the Spanish Lakes, Bayou Manchac area. And so we have a lot of, let's say, environmental hurdles to cross. And, this is what we're looking at. And also while I have the floor, we're not looking at your drainage type pump stations like a Marvin Brew, where they're designed to turn on when the rain comes and you pump the water out. This is more of a water management plan. We're going to try to find a water elevation that we can keep the mitigation banks and the ecosystem healthy and nourished without creating any damage, while at the same time leaving enough retention so that when you get a 13 to 16 inches of rain event, you can still handle and detain that water. So the type of pump that we're looking at is something that, would take maybe 3 to 5 days to drain the area and keep it at that level. So you can maintain a healthy volume of storage. That's what we're looking to do. We're looking to maintain the storage volume in that area by pumping the water out, as needed.
Perfect. I've been asking for this for 2 years, so I'm glad that it's finally come forth with the public. Thanks for y'all's effort. HNTB, I know, has been leading the charge with it with Congressman Graves' office. So thanks for the efforts.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman?
Any other questions?
I have a question, Dempsey.
Sure, Dow.
Yeah, actually, I have a question. Thanks for the presentation, John. First question I have, and I may have missed it, I apologize if I did. When on slide 4, you have, or it's actually 5, 2 draft documents submitted for review on July 20th. Are those draft documents you're submitting to us, or?
The draft documents were submitted for review to the steering committee.
Okay.
And so once we implement the draft documents, I would imagine that, it'd be the drainage board could take a look at them. So it was just a draft document when we first sent it out. We did get comments back from the other consultants who reviewed it. So we should implement those quickly and have a better document for the remaining of the board members to review.
Okay, so that's something that after the steering committee. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
We're trying to flush it out right now. Yep.
What's that?
We're trying to flush it out now. We gave the steering committee the first shot at it.
Okay, that sounds good. And on that note, is there some way, and I don't know if the steering committee wants to do it or you want to do it, can we get just a copy of the minutes just to kind of, like this presentation's good, but I think it'd be good to understand what was talked about in the steering committee meeting as we're kind of digesting all this. If we could do that also, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, Ms. Liz has a copy of that. She will go ahead and send that to you all.
Okay. I had another question on the detention areas, like the Welsh Gully, and you said you're looking at other areas. What kind of criteria do you look for? I mean, is this, I'm kind of trying to just embrace, if we do find a detention area, are we looking for a certain amount of retention time? And will this be something where we'll have to pump it out to maintain that, in between rainstorms? Is that something where we'll have to have some mechanical means to empty those detention areas once they're full?
That's a good question. The main thing we're looking for is acreage. Okay, so we're looking for areas that are 4, 5, or bigger acres, so that we can sustain. We can hold a significant amount. Some of those don't have to have a mechanical means. It could be a concrete weir. When the water comes up in the gullies, it overflows into that detention basin, and there could just be a pipe with a flap gate on it that when the water recedes, the flap gate opens and drains the water naturally. So it can be done without much mechanical aside from the flap gate. In some other areas, because of the elevation, it could be served by a small pump, like a 5 CFS pump that can pump the water out of a detention basin just because of the topography of the area. Plus, it may benefit you if the water recedes quickly, but the orifice or the pipe in that detention area is too small to let it drain out, and you want to drain it because maybe you got more rain coming. You may want to pump the water out as well. So pumps are an option. Obviously, you have to operate and maintain pumps, which takes more time, money, and effort. If you have culverts or orifices with flap gates on them that would naturally open when the water recedes, that's probably your best shot. Okay. As far as operation and maintenance goes, yeah.
Okay. Is there some kind of, just for my information and maybe the public's information, is there some set of guidelines that you use when trying to identify these areas as far as, what it costs versus what kind of retention time you gain and how many inches of rain you can contain for a certain area? Is there certain guidelines we follow for that?
I think the biggest guideline is acreage. If we run the miles and we're looking for a volumetric storage capacity, obviously a piece of land with that the bigger the piece of land, the better off you'll be, and also the surrounding topography. It may be that 5 acres 5 foot deep does the trick if you have 5 foot of relief, but it may be that 10 acres 2 foot deep or 2.5 foot deep may also do the trick. So it's a balance of the acreage available and how much water you're trying to hold.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Cool.
Anyone else with questions for Mr. John?
Yeah, Dempsey, please.
Please, Tara.
Hey, Tara.
Hi, Mr. Munson. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. I want to go back to a statement you made. I think the question was asked about how long this process of getting a project of this significance in the Bluff Swamp and Spanish Lake area might take. And you said a year to 2 years. I mean, it's taken me 6 years and we still haven't managed to get a floodgate at Alligator Bayou Road. And it took us a year to get a piece of right of way. So I want to be realistic. I don't want people to be overly convinced that this is going to happen in a short period of time. And our discussion was, what can we do between now and then? Because we have, we certainly have a crisis in that area. But how long realistically, will it take? Truthfully, we've been working 6 years on getting a floodgate at Alligator Bayou, at what is Alligator Bayou Road in our district.
So the year to 2 year design timeline that I had in mind would be just designing the facilities, whether it's a pump station channel. Yeah, that would be the design time. Not, then after that, you still get your permits and then advertise and put it out for bid. And the permitting process, if we could start it concurrently with the design and not wait for the design, I think it would help. Certainly we've all dealt with the Corps of Engineers and sometimes, getting the permits from the Corps can be cumbersome. With the right pressure on the Corps, and certainly we have Congressman Graves who represents all three parishes. We think that he can put the correct pressure on them to maybe help us out and try to get these projects expedited. Because unless you pump the water to the river, the water's just not getting out of Bite-Man-Check any faster than it is right now.
Would you correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the keys here is money. And for the first time maybe not in the history of this region, we have an opportunity with Louisiana Watershed Initiative funds to make a difference in this region, because we will for the first time have that kind of money available. So between the pressure, the regional approach, and the money being available, we may actually manage to get this done. So I'm very hopeful. I thank you and your co-workers for your efforts and you for your time today.
Thank you, Terry.
Anyone else? If not, John, I have just a couple of things on Henderson Bayou. 4 weeks ago, we had a 50-year event. 7 inches in 2 hours. This is Corps permitted. I need some relief very quick. I don't know what your schedule is on, exactly given it. I know you said 4-to-1 slopes, top, bottom. I really need something on this pretty quick. And look, I don't want to jump ahead of anyone, but what is your best guess?
Well, we fast-tracked the project to an 18-month timeline, and we're roughly about 6 months into it. So we have 12 months left to complete the project. Certainly, we will have something to show you prior to that. I'm thinking in maybe 6 to 9 months, we will have a bigger picture that you can use to say, okay, you know what, maybe it wasn't this crossing, maybe it was this one. I just want to make sure that I give you the big picture and not just, I'm showing you the progress we've made right now, but this isn't the big picture, certainly. I believe that there are other areas that need dredging as well. We just haven't identified them yet.
So when you looked at the 50-year event, what did it show you? You was inside of the banks or outside?
Currently, for a 50-year event, you were in some areas you were out of bank. You were in the you were overflowing the canal. But with the 5-foot bottom, 4-on-1 side slopes, you were pretty much staying in the bank.
Okay.
But that's not what you got. That's not what's permitted right now.
It's just clean. It's just clean, correct?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
You was just more or less shaping it back to what they had and clearing is what we have on core.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, man. Appreciate the report. If
Chairman Lambert,
any other questions? Mr. President.
Thank you. Try to do this without coughing too much if I can. There's just a few items that I'd like to touch on that maybe John glossed over in his report, which was very detailed. Thank you, John. There's a conversation that's going on with Three Parish is essentially 4 major projects. Okay, all 4 would be associated with the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. We have our crews in Manchac as of last week. We're waiting on Kim Spray's contract to get a little more detail, and they're mobilizing to get in there as well as working with EBR to do clearing and snagging. We're looking at grant opportunities there to completely clear and snag Manchac as well. But ultimately, you're looking at channelization and deepening Manchac to release some of the water out of Manchac from the tri-parish, dumping into that system. So that is a top priority. EBR is working with us as well as Iberville. All 3 are in communication through Congressman Graves' office. This has been a concept only. So what you're hearing is a very just conceptual stage here. This is not something that has any engineering or anything but conceptual wise in order to fill out applications for the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. So the 3 other projects involve pumping stations, one being in St. Gabriel outside of our basin, Spanish Lake Basin, and then Willow Glen being one in Iberville as they spoke of, and they went and take a look at those systems this past week. I was unable to attend due to COVID, but that is an outdated and aged system. So our project would be the one at the pump station at the end of New River as it terminates into the Mississippi levee. Now, what that does is it has dual benefit. So allowing Highway 74 or gate valves, which would allow water underneath 74 into New River and then pumped westward to the Mississippi River, it would allow us to get that water out through that corridor. Now, it has to be at a volume that it has to be engineered and researched, obviously, but it also does something else. What it does is it allows us to pump water out of Geismar, out of Dutchtown, out of Gonzales, reducing any water to go through Geismar, any water to go through Gonzales, any water to go through Sandoval. The benefit of that would be monumental in scale due to the fact that there's some retention ponds there that you could take advantage of and allow you to pump that water there. The advantage Ascension has is that we have pumping stations already existing, which means the O&M, we will be able to take over the O&M of the pumping station. And that is the main concern of PLD as well as the Louisiana Watershed Initiative. They don't mind building the pumping station. They don't want to operate and maintain it. And that's the issue. And that's where we have left up in an opportunity here that other parishes may not have. And so this is something that we would need to come to this board with even more detailed drawings, more detailed engineering and conceptual talks with some of our industry partners where we could put this pumping station at the Mississippi River. Had the opportunity to go with HNTB to Harahan and look at that pumping station there. It pumps water over a mile to the Mississippi River and over the Mississippi River. Is a very impressive pumping station. So what we'd like to do is have HNTB maybe do a little bit more of a conceptual drawing and presentation based on this, because this is something we may need to vote on in September, probably maybe even October, if we make that presentation in September. So again, as board member Casso said, this money's here. We got to go after it. It's going to be taken somewhere else if we don't go after it. And so the 3 parishes is where those projects fell. Channelization of Manchac was all a regional 3 parish. A pumping station in St. Gabriel outside would be for EBR and Iberville in that area, and possibly another pumping station up around the end of Fountain up around 30. But Iberville would get Willow Glen, and then we would get one at New River with the Highway 74 diversion there. Now, obviously, those are big projects, and those are core projects. Involves a lot of different steps, a lot of environmental studies, and a lot of those things. But monumental, it would be one of the first times that Ascension Parish has ever been able to pump into the river, and that's monumental in case it would prove the point. We got other areas such as in Dara, where Conway terminates at the levee, and it provides other opportunities there as well. So if we're able to do it, I hope the board supports it, but we'll have more information coming very, very soon to the board. And we'd like to make a full H&T to make a full presentation on this concept, hopefully next month. That's all I have.
Mr. Corey.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Quintlaw, I hope you're feeling better. You look like you're at least able to hold your head up. I remember when I had it at this stage, I was not. So I'm glad for that. You mentioned desnagging Bayou Manchac. I know that we had something in place back in January 2020, December 2019. Why haven't we taken advantage of that effort to this point? I mean, I don't understand why we hadn't done that.
There was no permits in place at that time. The only permit was allowed to get was August 1st when they took away the scenic byway designation. I've had several conversations with Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries about Manchac over my tenure when I took office, and never ever was discussed that there was a permit in place allowing us to go in and snag that. Matter of fact, we had asked questions back in May when this storm happened, and there was no indication we had any paperwork or any permits allow us to do that. So I have no knowledge whatsoever of anything that was available to allow our crews or anyone else to go into that highway and do that Manchac.
Okay. Well, and I appreciate that candor, Mr. President. I really do. To be honest with you, we've been told differently, through sources from the previous administration and sources who are continuing in this administration. So I was surprised to hear that. But I'll look further into getting that information to confirm it, and I hope that everybody realizes that you, as well as this council, is doing the best we can. But thank you again, and again, congratulations. I'm hoping to see you back in full force by the end of the week.
I hope so, and thank you, Corey. Appreciate it.
Any other questions for Mr. John, Parish President?
Hey, Dempsey.
Go ahead, Mr. John.
Just a question, Clint. Hope you get to feeling better. I know it's rough. I had a friend of mine went through it, and it was no fun. But just a question. I know, John, appreciate your report. Very well done. Support H&TB and all that you're doing. One other question came with this was looking like it was focused on Manchac and Bayou Henderson, and I was just questioning: are you going to get eventually to the southeast portion of the parish by River Road? I'm talking about Orange Grove, south of Sorrento, because there's been some talk, Clint, you've been involved in these as well, about mass scale detention there and collecting water, and then maybe another way to get to the river. It looks like the Corps is going to be allowing this now. So that's just something I've been thinking of, and that would help a lot. But sometimes we get the backwater when a hurricane's blowing the wind, blowing the water up Blind River, and, through, what's this one, McElroy Swamp, and it comes up Blind River, and it just that's what happened to us in 2016 with the flood. It was so much water it couldn't get out, and it started backing up because of the southeast wind. So I'm just thinking that might be something that will be considered down the road in this study that y'all are doing.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely, they're gonna work their way south, as Mr. John indicated in his presentation. I did want to mention this, and because I had forgot talking about the Spanish Lake Basin so much. So as H&TB continues their work in the north and they continue south, if the board decides, and this is completely decision by the board, we can start removing some of these obstacles, some of the smaller projects that we're able to do in-house, then waiting until the complete thing is done. But again, this is a board decision because obviously we are starting in the north, but there's already indications that we have issues with certain locations under roads and certain culverts that are undersized. So it's something for the board to consider coming up in the next few months is when they want to start tackling some of these smaller issues you can handle in-house. And so I just kind of wanted to point that out and put that on y'all's radar.
Good. Thank you. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll go into the general business. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Shadows at Manchac Retention Pond Review, Jarrett, Mr. Jarrett.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing, Jack?
How are you, Mr. Dempsey?
Good, good. Go ahead, my friend.
Good evening, board. My name is Jared Monso with Hartman Engineering, and this will be brief. We were tasked to take a look at Shadows at Manchac, the drainage retention pond. We were going to look at the existing conditions, and it is a dry pond. It's not a wet pond. And the HOA had contacted the administration on some street flooding. So that was part of the assessment. And basically what I did, we looked at, recent survey elevations, and I compared them to the plan drawings, the construction plan drawings. And what I found out that there was, in areas, 18 inches of sedimentation. And there's a road that splits the two retention ponds, and there are several pipes that are just buried. So that concerns me. So it has a potential to reduce the storage capacity, which is noted in the report. And I'm assuming you guys have the technical report, correct? So my recommendation is this is purely on a engineering perspective. Now keep in mind there's a 30-foot drainage servitude that runs right in the middle of the dry retention pond, and the dry retention pond is roughly about 80 feet in width. And part of my recommendation would be to excavate to the original plan drawings to bring it back to original conditions, and including a potential option would be to create a wet condition, meaning a wet pond. So that would be over excavating beyond the existing invert and create a wet pond, which from it's my understanding that the HOA is having lots of issues maintaining it. It's a big pond, and you can see the pictures on page 3 and 4. So they have to hire someone to rent machinery and go cut all this grass, and it's constantly wet, and it's just it's a maintenance, a big maintenance issue. So in addition, so it's a give and take. If you create a wet pond, so you can have potential of erosion at the water's edge, like you see in a lot of. So it is a give and take, but that is a potential option. And as far as the street flooding, I actually visited a site in the months of April and May after intense rain events, and I didn't notice any street flooding, but the homeowners had sent some pictures, and you can see on page 5, and that's basically at the entrance to the subdivision, and you're probably looking at 18 inches of water in the street, and that's on page 5. I have a feeling this is probably one of those mega events that we had and we could be getting some water from, adjacent properties. But so I also looked at the upper end, and I had some recommendations on sheet 2 to increase the pipe size in that area. That's basically the gist of it. That's again, drainage, the retention ponds, they do work, but keep in mind, they're designed for a certain storm. If you get above that storm, it doesn't matter anywhere in the parish, they're not going to function as designed. So this, which is why, in my opinion, we do need to look hard at the existing drainage ordinance. And I actually have a running list of recommendations, whenever you guys are willing to sit down. But I feel that's really important. The drainage ordinance, I think they can be improved. But again, it's, you don't want to design everything for a 100-year storm and just shut everything down. That's not the intention. But I do think we need to look at the ordinance and, make some revisions.
Any questions for Mr. Jarrett?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Aaron.
Yes, Jared, thank you for your analysis of that. As far as a plan moving forward, with your recommendations of turning that into a wet pond, I believe, and increasing the size of the pipes, do we have the benefit that we would hope from the cost associated with that? And what is the cost, if you know what the cost is, or an estimated cost?
No, we didn't. I didn't look at the cost. Now, keep in mind, so there's a 30-foot drainage servitude that's running right in the middle of the pond. And the parish, if they would go in and excavate, they can only be within that 30 foot. So, it really doesn't make sense to just excavate in that 30 foot. You need to go beyond that 30 foot. So that, that's kind of, out of my expertise, whether or not the parish can get some type of access or servitude to excavate beyond the servitude. So that is a big issue that I see.
Or if the neighborhood could agree to share that cost.
Absolutely.
Without working outside of it. Okay.
Chairman
Parish
Lambert.
President, I believe, has a question.
President.
Thank you, Aaron, for that. So just to talk a little bit of logistics. So when we looked at what occurred to, he's right about the piping going to the pond is probably inadequate for a 50-year storm like we had, and that was due to the major water. They do have some issues continuing with water, even with smaller storms in their streets. So obviously there's an issue there with inadequate culverts and piping leading to the pond. If you look around the parish and you go, and what I did is I took a look at why this particular pond was different. And what you notice, this is one of the very, very, very few dry ponds that we attempted. They are a absolute disaster for the HOAs. And so what Jared's kind of alluding to and proposing is that we get a temporary servitude over the entire existing pond with access servitude. We try to do this in-house to save cost. We remove all the weirs except for the last one to control the water going into Cotton Bayou and retaining some level of water in there. We do it to where they naturally maintain now in the pond. And you can look side-by-side photos. Jared, I don't know if you were unable to put those on the screen, so I'm not sure what's in your report if those are in there. But you can see the maintenance of these ponds that are wet. They're manicured down to the water edge where this becomes a natural nightmare to maintain because of the amount of trees and vegetation, and it's always wet, and normal people will not get equipment down into there. So what we're kind of proposing is to make this pond just like all the rest of our ponds and to make it wet to reduce this kind of growth that is obviously damaging to getting caught up. When they do cut it, it's 3 to 4 feet wide. That dead vegetation then buckles up and stacks up against the weir culverts, causing it to retain a little more water and not work efficiently. The last weir would be so that you're able to retain those levels of water so you don't have underwater vegetation or vegetation problems. And then they can maintain it at that point, and that would leave the smaller area at the end for them to maintain. They can maintain that with herbicide, as well as it would help with the situation on why the weirs were put in there in the first place, which I understand was because of the residents that lived along Cotton Bayou. Obviously, Cotton Bayou is one of those channels that is on HNTB's radar. It's inefficient for drainage in that area. It needs to be widened, and right away needs to be acquired. So, this would be returning it to ponds like we have everywhere else. And I think that's important when you look around the parish and you visit some of these, that these people have been like experimental here and has adopted a pond that they just simply cannot maintain. And that's why we get the continuous call. So here's an opportunity to fix it, do it in-house with our crews, as long as the HOA is willing to give us the appropriate right-of-way and servitudes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. President. Aaron, you had anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'll certainly go talk to the HOA individuals over there and see if we can work in the servitude. If they can give us that, we'll come back to the Drainage Commission and explore the cost of this and if we can move forward with it. So that may take maybe by the next meeting we can do that.
Sure. Anyone else has any questions for Jared? Jared, just one quick thing. So the pictures I have here with the improvements and also going to a 36-inch outfall pipe, will I get the water off of Oak Tree Drive?
It will definitely, in my calculations, it definitely helped out. But again, and I don't know what event we had, with, the pictures that are showing the street flooding. Again, the storm drainage can only handle so much, even with my calculations. So, will it handle a 25-year storm? Yes. But a 50 to 100-year storm, no. I mean, you're going to get some type of street flooding. Correct. If you want to look at 100 years, then you need to start adding more inlets and bigger pipe and, the whole gamut. So it really gets really costly at that point.
All right, it looks like we have a plan. Parish President, Mr. Lawler, we're working the servitudes and hopefully in-house. So we'll be back in touch, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, Jared.
All righty.
That's it.
We'll go to B, the amendment number 6 to the master contract for professional services for floodplain management with HMTB.
Yeah, Dips is Ron, but this is just to renew their contract and extend the term for the rest of the floodplain management project.
Motion by Mr. Johnny.
I have a second.
Second by Mr. Terry. Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries. Any questions? I'm sorry. Any questions? None. Motion carries. Go to C, the amendment number 2 to the master task order contract with Delcom. Mr. Ron?
Yes, sir. This is the maintenance and repair contract for all of our pumping stations for Delcon. And what we're asking to do is renew the contract for an additional year to extend the date through August 27th of 2022 and add additional $500,000 to the total contract budget to bring it to not to exceed $2.5 million. And there's currently only a remainder of 400 or so thousand on that contract. And if any major repairs happen, these gearboxes and things like that could put us in not having enough funds to make repairs. So taking this action to add a little bit more funds to it.
Okay, appreciate that, Ron.
Motion.
Second.
Motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed. D, amendment number 4 to master contract for professional services.
Dempsey, I had a question.
I'm sorry. Back up,
I had a
Mr.
question.
Corey, what you got?
Ron, I believe was it Delcon that did the work installing the valves and the weir on the river?
Yes, sir, they did.
Okay. Was any of the money from this particular contract that we have for them to do work at Marvin Brew? Was the money to pay them for that activity? Was that used for this project?
Yes, it was for the maintenance and operations of the pump station system. That goes to Marvin Brew, so they did use it for that.
Okay, so that was, and forgive me because I've looked over that agreement, and it's regarding maintenance for the pump stations at Marvin Brew, not maintenance for operations anywhere along New River. I mean, did we get an opinion on that?
We did on. I would refer to legal with John Paul, but he did that with the gauges on the river and the water gauges with this contract, and he gave that opinion. So I would refer to legal on that.
Okay, so we did. So Jean Paul, are you there?
I am here.
Did you give an opinion that it was within the contract the terms of the contract with Delcon for us to pay them out of these funds to put the efforts in that weir on New River?
I didn't give an opinion as to where funds came from. I gave an opinion as to whether they could do the project.
Right.
I was not aware of where the funds were coming from at that time.
Okay.
But I can look into that with Patrick. Patrick and I were kind of working on getting the funding together on that to get that project done. I didn't discuss specifically which account or which contract those funds were coming off of at the time.
Right, and again, that just trying to be, some good housekeeping here. I think we got to make sure that if we have a contract with the contractor, it says work to be performed area A, that we keep that there unless you come to the board asking us for an amendment or an exception to the contract. That's the main thing I've got to look at right now.
I'll follow up with Patrick on that and get back to you.
Do we know how much that particular additional work was for, Ron? How much did we pay them out of this account?
I would have to go back and get that information. I'd get it to John Paul.
Okay.
I don't have it in front.
Mr. Chair, I think until we get this additional information, I think we need to table this request to increase the size of the contract. I think maybe there's a possibility that it was overinflated by using funds that were not necessarily appropriated properly. So maybe if we wait 30 days, Ron, is there any issue with waiting 30 days to get all these answers from Jean-Paul and Patrick?
I have to make sure that the contract doesn't expire. The ending date on the contract, I think it would be all right, but we'll probably wind up with a little bit of lag in the contract before the next meeting.
Why don't we do this, Mr. Corey? You want to maybe do it with contentions because we got other things on here that we most probably need to move on.
No, I'm just concerned that we may be. I'll tell you what, I would offer an amendment to the proposal that says that that as of today, we agree to extend the contract another year for $2 million. Is that what I'm reading? Yeah, $2 million.
Not to exceed.
And that we could come back. We could come back in September to discuss whether or not we need to add the additional $500,000 to it. That's the amendment I'm proposing.
Do we have any other discussion on C? Ron, you have anything to add?
No, I misunderstood what he's saying, but I understand. That's fine.
Okay, so we're moving forward on C. You just reducing it by 500,000, Mr.
That's my request is to amend this particular motion so that we agree to extend the contract another year at the current $2 million contract rate, and then we can always address that other $500,000 later on if necessary.
Okay, what's the wishes of the board? Do we have any opposition? Do we have any?
Yeah, I'll
do we
second
have
that.
a motion and a second? Do we have a motion and a second?
Motion, second from Lawler.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Discussion? Any opposition? You have it, Ms. Liz?
Yes, sir.
With that, it passed. We'll go on to D. It's the amendment number 4 to the master contract for professional services, setting and installing covers with on-grade construction. Ron?
Yes, sir. This is just a renewal for the service of setting culverts for new residential properties within the parish. And we contract this work out, and there's about $5,000 left on the contract.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Aaron.
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnny. Any discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed. E, approval of intergovernmental agreement between the Pontchartrain Levy District and East Ascension. We had this early on. Ron, you have anything to add?
This is just an intergovernmental agreement that you guys as the parish council approved at your last meeting. We have to do it as far as drainage too in conjunction with PLD. So we're asking.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Terry.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnny. Any discussion? Any opposition? None. Motion passed. Approval to acquire partial of immovable property for Ascension. Mr. John Paul.
This is part of what you just approved on section E. We're doing a gapping project at Highway 20.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Aaron. Second by Mr. Johnny. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passed. G, amendment number 1 for United Works LLC.
I can take that for Todd. Tim says he mentioned earlier in his report, this is just adding $300,000 contract to Lifehouse for labor and services with hand cleaning ditches and different services we need just for labor in general.
Appreciate that, Ron.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Terry.
Second.
Second by Ms. Dow.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Aaron.
Could this contract also be used for the sandbagging that was discussed before?
It could, Aaron. You bring up a good point. We can go ahead and discuss it. We met with both the sheriff and Lifehouse, and both entities have no issue helping us with sandbags. But what they don't want is they don't want to own the demand to have 160,000 sandbags produced prior to an event. They don't want that associated with their missions. You know, they're there to help, but they don't want to be the prime on it because it involves labor and equipment as far as ownership of going through the whole process. Now, if we're in a state of emergency and we have a hurricane or rain event and we're running low on bags, I talked to the sheriff personally last week, he's more than willing to come out there and help us bag sand through an event, same as Lifehouse. But for us having our inventory on hand and ready to go, it's a burden, and it's a big burden on Vegetation mainly. But we're open to maybe just putting this out for quotes or go out for bid and see what we can get to the table for a solution. I think that one very important thing that I did was a pilot program. We ran out and got some cost on pre-bag sands delivered. There are companies that do that. There's one not far from Hammond. And 160,000 sandbags pre-delivered to the parish will cost you $800,000. They will deliver it to you and leave. You're sitting on the ground. You still have to pick all those 160,000 bags up and put them in a sea can or a storage facility. So you involve all the labor to restack all that on top of the cost for getting them here. So there's obviously a better way to do this in the future. And I think a request for a scope, a defined scope that takes care of what our demand is. And we bring those back to you guys as a suggestion to go forward.
Are our sea cans currently filled?
Yes.
Good.
That would be part of why Vegetation is so far behind.
Yeah.
It took a lot of, it takes those guys about 2.5 months to fill all those cans back up when they're empty. And, on top of that, running pumps and different things with the flood, it's very cumbersome for them to do that, and they get really far behind. They can't do that in Vegetation Management too. So we're going to look at alternatives to bring to the table for you guys on that.
Thank you, Ron.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Johnny?
Yeah, Ron, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just saying you and I had some discussions about this vegetation contractors that we're using. One of the big reasons we can't find people because of COVID, and it just keeps getting us put farther and farther behind. So if you say this is the resolution, we can pay this out regardless whether it be overtime to our people or paying Lighthouse. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. That's what I'm saying. But I think that we need to go outside of the scope of what Lifehouse is. What their mission is they need stability for their work. And that stable work is constantly doing ditch maintenance. When you get outside of the lane of that and you put them over the sandbagging with as sensitive a subject as flooding is right now, they don't want to be the prime as to have to supply 160,000 bags and not meet quota. And then this good thing that we're starting a foundation for, they don't want to put their name on that. And if we don't come through on 160,000 bags, they don't want to be associated with that. But they do not have an issue helping. So I think we should go outside and get some quotes from companies.
But this additional 300,000, that is strictly for vegetation management. That doesn't include any sandbag, right?
That is that much of the demand for hand labor in ditches.
Okay.
No doubt. I mean,
good.
We've got that. I don't think this is enough, to be honest with you.
But then that being said, I'll agree with Aaron's statement. We go out for bids for the sandbagging operation if that's what it's going to take. Thank you so much. Good job. Well done.
Dempsey, I do have just one thought on sandbagging. I know that we have several areas around the parish that are owned by the Ascension Drainage District because they repetitively flooded. Generally, I think my ears thing went out. Generally, those are in high flood-prone areas. Could we consider buying more sea cans and filling up more than 160,000, filling up sea cans on those areas to make them more available to the public?
Well, Aaron, I think that you bring up a very good point. Obviously, the more on hand, the better you'll have to respond to events. Right now, we need to grasp on supplying the demand that we've already committed to the parish and getting that under control. And what is that going to cost us? And in the long run, yes, absolutely. I would say that we need to look at other places. One thing we will say is it's repetitive flood sites, and 9 times out of 10, when you need them, those places are flooded. Such as Stevens Park, we have that trouble there. It's we can look at that, but I think we need to get a pilot kicked off that everybody's happy with, and we start turning the service around on sandbags, and then we build on it from there and go from there.
Good point.
Appreciate the discussion. Anyone?
Hey, Dempsey, this is Dow.
Yeah, good, Dow.
Hey, Ron, just to throw one more idea out there. I know that part of canceling the litter contract with the sheriff was that he didn't have prisoners that qualified to be out on that road detail. He didn't have enough to fulfill the contract. Would there be a possibility of doing some of this work in the prison as some kind of labor deal where we filled sandbags and transported them to these sea cans and the different?
Yeah, that's kind of where the problem lies. Is we can get that help. We can get the bags probably made at different points in time, but then you still have to supply labor of dump trucks, the same manpower to go pick it up, and then you got to go stack it in these sea cans. So you still have to supply that in-house labor that takes away from levels of service that we should be providing in, say, vegetation management. So it's like I told you, the sheriff and all, they have good faith working relationships. They want to help us in events, but they don't want to own the process. And I think that's where our challenge is with the regular service that we're told the public we're going to give you consistently. We've almost got to put up an ante up to provide that service. And that's where we're coming at you guys and saying we don't have the in-house labor to meet that quota, that we really need to go outside and get some help.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I guess, add to this, I mean, the last 8 weeks, the parish has been either in flood or either we've been dealing with storms and different things. And we've really been leaning on our employees real hard. So, we don't want fatigue to set in, but we're going to have to start thinking differently of how we're going to get these bags, litter, a few other things done where you can't get machinery. So appreciate all the discussion. Anyone else? Miss Liz, you okay? You have everything?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Dempsey.
Mr. Court.
It's Aaron.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, for the record, I was thinking about what happened earlier with the votes on the minutes and everything. I did send Joel a text a while back asking that if you want to come back, I'll ask that we reconsider this vote. Because it is Zoom, my concern was precedent. We don't want to set a precedent that if somebody leaves, even in a in-person meeting, that you come and open a vote again. I did invite him back that if he'd like to come back, despite his outbursts, we could open up. I'd make a motion to open up that vote again, as long as it only pertained to Zoom. I haven't heard back from him since.
Well, we'll appreciate you reaching out. We were dropped. I'm sorry. I mean, this is technology. We trying to do our best in dealing with the virus also. So with that,
Motion to adjourn.
moved by Mr. Terry to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Aaron. We adjourn.
Did we pass the last agenda item, Dempsey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. John.
Thank y'all.
Recording stopped.